Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel, here with executive producer and really star of the show, Huck. Huck, how you doing tonight? Good. I swear she knows she's on TV. She knows she's on YouTube. Oh, you're such a good girl. Oh, yeah, so pretty. Yeah, so pretty girl. Yes. Yeah, she's so pretty. And she likes you being here, too. Okay, she did her mandatory 20-second appearance. She goes, Dave, you take over the show now? And I will. I'm not kidding. My dog. When I come into the room, I come in here like 20 times a day. But on the time when I come in here to record, she knows. She comes over, she sits down. Okay, you can shoot me now, Dad. It's kind of spooky. Kind of spooky. Okay, this is a missing person segment. We've got two interesting cases for you, and we're going to talk about them in detail. Before I get into those, I've talked to you about MUFON before. The MUFON newsletter comes out every month. They occasionally have something that intrigues me, as they did this month. And it should this month, since I am the keynote speaker at the National Symposium. And that's going to be in Cincinnati. If you just Google MUFON National Symposium, you're going to see me there. Okay, so it says 2023 cases of interest. MUFON case 122-859, dated June 15th, 2022. Pennsylvania field investigator was so intrigued it resulted in an Ancient Aliens segment on an episode about MUFON back in February. In this case, a mysterious light descended on a farm, causing the witnesses' dogs to go berserk and the summer insects to go silent in what is called the Oz effect. All right, let's talk about that. I've spoken before, being in the woods, everything goes silent. What can cause that? Electromagnetic interference, maybe a change in barometric pressure. A lot of things could. We really don't know why. But they see a light, could be an orb, and boom, all the insects stop talking, making noise. The following day, substantial rings were found in the grass, suggesting something larger than 2 yards in diameter had landed. The investigator, while taking soil samples, developed a rash over his body. The intrigue does not stop there. The grass and the dirt sample results were stunning. Black, unmarked Chinook helicopters began flyovers over the property, and as late as March 2023, military C-130s from foreign countries en route to U.S. Air Force bases flew circles over the tiny Wapwallopen location where the incident took place. Moreover, the sightings took place 8 miles from the Susquehanna River nuclear power station and 9 miles from General Dynamics Ordnance Factory, where manufactures missiles. The investigator will be presenting his own case. Well, they forwarded this photo, and you can see the ring in the grass. A couple things. Whenever I think of rashes, my mind immediately goes to radiation. When you're investigating anything related to UFOs, you always carry a Geiger counter. Always. I hope that this investigator did have that with him. Strange rashes. I don't like that. Another case. 2022 saw an astounding number of cases from pilots over the United States. Let's talk about that. Pilots, trained observers. They're flying around the skies. They're looking for other planes because they don't want to make contact with them, right? So they're looking around and they see something unusual. The Atlantic Ocean, in particular the Pacific, the UFO would become quite familiar with the term racetrack UFOs, which seem to be flying in circles at very high altitudes off the coast of California. Similar objects were seen across the U.S. and filmed by pilots. Some of these objects were small and similar to what are called the fast movers and satellite objects. We'll give a brief introduction to all those cases as we prepare to tie them into our number one case of interest for 2022, which occurred 8/10/22 at 1:38 a.m. Hawaii time. 2 planes heading for Vancouver over the North Pacific spied an enormous object, possibly 2 miles long, that was hovering with possible orbiting satellite objects. Is everything connected? The Hawaii case was investigated by our state director, Richard Griffiths, an astrophysicist at the University of Hawaii. Photo isn't too good, but taken by a pilot, you can kind of see an object way out there. Hawaii water. And in times I've been to Hawaii, it's great for night sky viewing because there aren't a lot of lights on the land that are interfering with your ability to see what's going on up in the sky. So Hawaii is an intriguing place to me, and pilots are really, really good witnesses. The few times that I've been able to talk to pilots off the record, they've all seen stuff. I'll tell you this quick story. I've told it before. At the time, my wife was working for a very wealthy man in technology, and he invited us to go with him on his G5 plane from San Jose to Maui. And, you know, high flyer, right? So it was just our family and his family. And they had DVDs for the kids, and the kids were all busy. And he knew I had taken pilot's lessons when I was younger because my dad had a plane. So he goes, "Hey, Dave, if you want to, you can sit in the jump seat right in between our two pilots." I go, "Oh, that'd be awesome." So for the first 2 hours of the flight, I just sat up there and talked to these guys, and they were just fantastic individuals. And of course, I got to ask them. I said, "Hey, you guys ever see anything weird up here?" And they look at each other and go, "Yeah, yeah." And they talked about a time they were leaving Monterey, California airport. And he said, we were pulling out over Monterey Bay, leaving. And he said, we were accelerating and pulling up altitude. And he said, out of the right side of the window, we could see something coming at us. And boom, right there, right next to our window was this orb that was about basketball size. And he said, it stayed right with the plane. As we accelerated 200, 300, 400 miles per hour, it stayed right with us. And he said the inside of it kind of looked like the lava lamp, was orange in color. And he says it really didn't do anything to scare us, but it was so close it was weird. And he goes, who do you report that to? That's what the pilots both said. It happened. It's there. We talk to other pilots. They see them all the time. Why would it come up on us like that? Who knows? But I thought, wow, that is an awesome story. Then I just hung out with them for another hour and a half and didn't care what was going on in the back of the plane. I thought it was just cool being up there in the front and seeing what a jet looks like flying across the Pacific. It was awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So, and by the way, that wasn't me. That was my ex-wife that worked for that guy, so I didn't have any attachment to it. So, today, I'm talking about missing people. And we've got two pretty current cases for you. First case, very current. Happened in Wyoming. And if you've watched Missing 411, the UFO Connection, you know why I'm interested in Wyoming. Involves a young lady named Brianna Mitchell, 28 years old. She went missing July 22nd of this year, 2023. And she lived and worked in a place called Worland, W-O-R-L-A-N-D, Wyoming. Now, Worland, I'm going to show you. Here's the map. Worland's right here. The search zone where she went missing is right here. Here's Thermopolis, Shoshone, Riverton. This area right here is nothing but high desert. There's not a lot of big trees. Not a lot out there that's going to break up the view. So when you're flying from the sky, you should be able to see everything on the ground. Well, she'd lived in West Virginia and Illinois. She'd moved around a bit. But she was living with her boyfriend, a guy named Christian Romo. Well, he reported that at July 22nd, 2023, at about 2 a.m., he gets a text from Brianna. and she's driving her Ford Explorer, and she has it stuck in the dirt somewhere south of where they live. Now, he never explained to the deputies, and the deputies never explained to the public what she was doing out there then. What would I be doing out there then? I'd be looking at the stars, because stargazing out there would be astronomically great. I have no idea what she's doing out there. But she texts him that she's got the car stuck. The boyfriend didn't know exactly where. She didn't know exactly where. So he calls the sheriffs. On July 23rd, the deputies from the Washakie County Sheriff's Office find her car stuck on a 2-track on the Nowater Trail near the airport. And they don't find anybody around the car. Deputies stated it appeared as though Brianna had tried to make a U-turn on this 2-track and got it stuck. They later found out that the vehicle didn't have 4-wheel drive. It was not operational, and that's probably why it got struck. So the next day, deputies form a search, and they get 25 people in there, and they start searching from the vehicle outward. And 1.5 miles from the car, well, first of all, half mile from the car, there's a big pond. And there's barefoot tracks around the pond. And they thought, must be Brianna. And then another mile away from the pond, they find her shoe, one shoe, and her shirt. Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Unless you've been following Missing 411. So the deputies put a diver in the water at the pond, trying to see maybe if she went in. And he's in there for a day while they're trying to get permission from BLM to empty the pond. Divers in there for a day and a half doesn't find anything. They eventually get permission to empty the pond on the basis of a cadaver dog hitting on something in the pond. Cadaver dog hitting on something in the pond. A cadaver dog should not hit on anything in that pond unless it is a body. So July 25th, new bloodhounds arrive. They bring him to the car, and they don't move from the car. At the same time, Washakie County sheriffs have contacted the FBI and have asked them for permission and assistance to ping her cell phone to see where it came back, because she did have a cell phone and she did text her boyfriend. Well, the pings came back to the area right around that car. Nothing further. The phone wasn't working at that point. So the sheriffs now get search warrants for the phone, her social media, all of her computers, and all of her emails. So it took 2 days. Pond's drained. Nothing's there. There were tracks that they thought were hers around the pond. Now, why would the canine, the cadaver dog, hit on that pond? It doesn't make any sense. But it's something I got to explain to people. In these small sheriff's offices like this, there's a good chance they don't even have their own canine dogs. And they have to call search and rescue dogs. Those are trained and owned by people like you and me. And if you train your dog 20 hours a quarter every 3 months versus 20 hours a week like we did when I was a policeman, the ability of those dogs are so different. And the trustworthiness of the dog is so different, I can't even explain it. I've stated before, I've never been on a case as a policeman where we didn't track the person from cradle to grave. But you hear about the cases I give you where there's a lot of people who are never found. Now, I attribute that to the training between the dog and the handler a lot of times. Like they're getting a hit on this pond by a cadaver dog. That should never have happened. I don't even care if there's a cow in there. That should not have happened. So the Ford Expedition that she was driving was found 2 miles off the main dirt road in that area on the 2-track. So they bring in now the Civil Air Patrol, and multiple days they fly the area. They also get a private helicopter from Guardian Helicopters to fly as well, and they break up the sky around the Ford. They also bring in ATVs, equestrians, and 25 ground pounders. They're not finding anything. This is Brianna, 28 years old. She has not been found. Young woman, 28 years old. She should have been found. There's no place to hide out there, folks. But remember, a shoe is found and a shirt is found. Now, on August 2nd, the original search for her went on for 8 days and was terminated. Friends and family continued to search. The sheriff made one more effort with a bloodhound from the Fremont County Sheriff's Department to determine a direction of travel, which they couldn't with the dog. Essentially, nobody wanted to give up. Which, on a lot of searches, it's a hard thing to do. August 16th, just the other day, an all-day last effort was made to find Brianna. The sheriff said he'd go at it one more day real hard. 20 square miles were searched air and ground that day. They used drones, Civil Air Patrol, equestrians. Again, drones should have found and seen something on the ground. Helicopters, Civil Air Patrol a body should have stuck out on the ground. Now, the sheriff never released any information about what they found on the computer or social media. The boyfriend made very, very few statements. Christian Romo was the boyfriend. He really didn't say a lot. No reason was ever given why she was driving around the prairie at 2 a.m. But, key point here. Some people would say, oh, she was out there because she was trying to take her life. That would not be true. Because she would not have called Christian asking for help at 2 a.m. Now, we've all been mad at our spouses for whatever reason, and maybe you want to just get away for a little bit. Maybe that was it. But that would be complete guess. I have no idea what she was doing out there. I am concerned that she hasn't been found. I'm concerned that she was missing at least one shoe and her shirt. That is not normal. So if you want to continue to follow the case, it's in Wyoming, and showed you the map. Brianna Mitchell, 28 years old. It's a tough one. Next case. This one's even stranger, I think. Involves a man 42 years old, right in the prime of his life. Went missing December 27th, 2010 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. David Merkvold. This is David. He was married. He lived in a Portland suburb called Gresham, Oregon. He was employed by Standard Insurance Company in Portland. He and his wife also owned a small corporation called the East County Tax Corporation. He owned his home outright. He had no obvious debt. He drove an older pickup truck. Seemed to be a very comfortable lifestyle. On December 27th, he went to work after Christmas. His wife calls him at about 1:30 in the afternoon. There's another picture of David. Receding hairline, glasses. Pay attention to those photos. The wife said the conversation at 1:30 was totally normal. How's your day going? What's new? Anything going on? Nothing. Due to be home later that afternoon. Wife hung up the phone. He never arrived home. She waited, called him, nothing. Eventually, Mrs. Merkvold calls the Gresham Police Department and reports her husband missing. Now, one of the things in a missing person report all the deputies ask is, what's your husband driving? Well, she reports he's driving a 1998 gray Mazda pickup truck. And that is then entered into the nationwide computer systems. Why? Well, let's let's say a deputy or a highway patrol or a city policeman somewhere pulls that car over, the license plate is going to flash on the screen and say that license plate is associated with a missing person. Well, maybe the car was stolen, maybe he's having a mental lapse. The police can kind of judge for themselves what's going on and use an associated caution. Well, Mrs. Mekvold reports that, and late that same night, December 27th, about 40 miles east of Portland, in Skamania County, Washington, deputies find a car parked in a remote area north of Skamania. They run the license plate, and it's associated with David Mekvold, who's missing. It's the truck. Well, here's what happens then. The deputies will ask dispatch to call Gresham, get the phone number for Mrs. Mekvold, see if they can get any insight as to why this truck may be here. As an example, does the family have a cabin nearby? Is it a place he likes to frequent, etc.? Is there a reason for it to be here? Mrs. Mekvold says, no, there's no reason for it to be there. I have no idea why it's there. Okay. Now the deputies are working on a missing persons case. It's so far kind of in the middle of nowhere, it's not reasonable to think that somebody would dump the truck there and walk it back to town, because there's really not a lot around that area, as I'll show you. Now this is adjacent to the Columbia River. This is Skamania County, Washington. Portland is down in this direction, off the map. David would have driven up Highway 84, and this is the North Bonneville Dam area. He could have crossed the Columbia River in several bridges, but he came to Guptill Road on Beacon Rock State Park, and he drove up that gravel road. There is no city nearby there. It's a long ways from anywhere. So what was he doing there? Yeah. I suppose that's $1 million question, right? But the deputies, doing their job, decide that what they're going to do is they're going to call for search and rescue. The truck's located about a half a mile east of Beacon Rock on Guptill Road. The area has had other disappearances there. And in fact, I did a case out of there where a man was up there with his dogs, and he actually took a picture of himself and sent it to his girlfriend, and then he disappeared. Very strange case. Deputies request search and rescue. The next morning, very early, 20 searchers respond. The wife told the deputies that she had no reason to understand why David would leave, why he would voluntarily disappear, why the truck would be in that area. Well, the searchers reported that nighttime temps in that area 37 to 38 degrees with rain and snow. They searched and they couldn't put air support up because the visibility and the wind were so bad. The next day, Skamania County gets canines into that area. And again, with poor visibility, grounded air support, too windy, the dogs go on and they search for 12 hours. They don't find anything. December 29th, they get 30 searchers. It's windy, rainy. They pull a 3-mile radius from where that truck was found, and again, they find nothing. Understand that 99% of all searches done by people like you and me, it's volunteer searching. And the numbers that they had here were not huge. They weren't hundreds of searchers, 20, 30 people. And when I see that, I tend to think, well, searchers don't have to search if they don't want to. They can find a reason not to. Is there some reason they're not searching here? I don't know. I don't understand it. But on December 30th, 35 searchers, 2 canines go out, and they find no scent trail from the truck, which is odd. But also that day, the undersheriff for Skamania County happened to be there, and he was interviewed by one of the press relations people. He said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And he goes, the quote, "It's a strange one." No leads. He stated that detectives from Skamania County were working in Skamania County and detectives from Gresham were working the Gresham end of the case. On December 30th, search and rescues terminated. Now, what would Gresham be doing, Gresham detectives? Well, first thing I'd do is I would go talk to the wife and interview anybody in the house. Has there been an issue? Is there a firearm missing? Has he recently got some bad news? Has his mood recently changed? And then I'd ask permission to see what he has searched on for the last week on his computer. What have those searches included? And from searches on a computer, you can tell a lot what's on people's minds. Reporters in these small communities, a lot of times will keep a calendar on their desk. And on a disappearance, they'll write a note on their next year's catalog, calendar, the date the person disappeared and say, "Hey, do a follow-up article." Well, on December 15th, 2011, there was a follow-up article written about David Mekvold. And it was 1 year later. No new leads. He hasn't surfaced anywhere. Detectives interviewed family, friends, work associates. And there was a couple things added that were interesting to me. They stated that David worked in a cubicle at Standard Insurance. And his wife talked to him at 1:30 in the afternoon and everything seemed okay. Well, when they went back and they searched his cubicle, the detectives, they found that the lunch he was supposed to eat the day he disappeared was in the garbage and he hadn't eaten it. Okay, I'm a man. I eat my lunch. The reason people don't eat their lunches can be many. Maybe he didn't feel good. Maybe he had an upset stomach. Maybe he had a life decision on his mind. I have no idea. But men usually eat their lunch. And then there was another, just a couple sentences. It stated that there were a few personal items missing from his desk. Didn't say what those personal items were. Well, did that mean that David took them or somebody else took them? Now it's been 13 years almost since David disappeared. Nothing's been found. Now Beacon Rock is 39 air miles from where he worked in Portland. It's about a 50-minute drive. I do not believe that anybody commandeered that car and drove it there. I believe David drove it there. When you have a drive of that magnitude, you have a lot of time to think. 50 minutes from the time he left his building. Didn't eat his lunch. Why wouldn't you eat your lunch? Did he have plans to eat an early dinner? I have no idea. I have a lot of compassion for David's wife and family. To have somebody walk out on you and not leave an iota of information about what's wrong and what happened, that would haunt me for a lifetime. And when I did this case, it's one of those things, I can't say it's a 411 case. Even though it adds up. It's in an area that's been on our radar before. Dogs aren't picking up on a scent trail. But there's a lot of things here that don't make sense. David Mekvold. Now, one of the things here about David, you don't know if he just took off and is living somewhere else. I doubt it, but we don't know. Take a look at David. That was his driver's license photo. And then the more recent photo is right here. Hairline is receding, wears glasses. I I would hope that his family gets some answers on this because they deserve it. But in the meantime, I appreciate you being here. Remember MontanaCon and October 8th in Kalispell, Montana at the Red Lion Hotel. And hopefully we'll see you there, some of the best speakers in the world. I'm going to be at the UFO MUFON Symposium later in August in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of you there. In the meantime, be nice to people in your community. Enjoy life. Don't take things too stressfully. Smile a lot when you're out in public. And when you get a chance, do something for someone out there, because that will help your own heart and make you feel better, and it'll make that person's day. Paulides out.